gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source of superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined on location by Mr. Sean Keenan.
Heidi loves some sweepy sacks.
Oh, let me tell you. And we're not joined by Bruce Leslie, as sad as that is. The man's going out and getting his certifications or some such nonsense. He's becoming his own Dr. Doom. Ooh, maybe? I don't know.
That was tight. That was super tight, Portrais. Good job by you.
I think I'll take that one to the bank. On today's episode, we got something special for you guys. Hopefully you've seen the teaser trailer for it. I'm doing those now up on Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. Today we're going to be reviewing Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. It's a documentary that's about to come out, and we kind of sweet-talked a couple of folks and got ourselves a little preview of it and everything, man. So we're going to talk about a movie that never was, or probably maybe never should have been.
I want to thank those guys for giving us the movie to watch. It's a very cool documentary on a movie that isn't super cool. So thank you guys.
And I'll say, they were we've done. I'm not going to call any names, but we've done stuff kind of like this before, and they were the most responsive and the most quick. And it's just like, oh, well, they really want to get the word out about their project and everything. So thank you guys for making that happen. We really appreciate it. So we're going to be talking about that today, and we'll tell you where to find the podcast and all that stuff. Get this, Sean. They're doing the time to find this thing is I think it's October 11th. I'll have the final dates and stuff before the show ends. But the place to get this thing will be on iTunes.
Oh, nice.
They are throwing so much special features in there. I'm talking I think they said 20 hours worth of interviews. Something ridiculous.
So it's just complete unedited interviews the entire time?
I don't know that they'd be unedited, but I mean, I'm sure that they've got
20 hours. That's pretty close to unedited.
Probably close. But they're giving you the shebang, man. You want to get in there. That's the way to do it. So, but we're going to be reviewing that on this episode and everything. Bruce is out. He'll be back with us to record Luke Cage, but they got the two of us. Look, we had me and Bruce for so long. You had to get sick of him for a while. At some point, everybody's going to be like, no,
never.
That's not
How
true.
Dare you? Never. I would never get sick of Bruce Leslie, ever, not once.
But they have gotten sick of me. But I'm the one who posts the show, so it's tough to really get rid of me.
That's funny, man. No, Adam, no one's sick of you. No, please step back from the ledge.
Oh,
no, don't do it. No.
That's the worst mistake you could ever. Why did your eyes roll when you said that?
It's a condition.
Sometimes I have these things where I look like I don't care and I hate you. Oh, thanks, Mom. So we don't have any iTunes reviews this week or anything, but we'd encourage you guys to go down, drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we'd appreciate that. It helps the show get out there, man. And I'll tell you what, because of you guys and those iTunes and stuff, I'm watching the numbers every single week, man, and we are growing, and it is thanks to you guys getting out there, getting the word out, telling your friends and stuff. And it makes us happy, man. It makes it happy. And with the way my job's going right now, this may be the only thing that's good in my life. So
Oh my God. Oh my God!
So
Adam, no.
So just in case Adam has to, start shuffling on the sidewalk for nickels, we wanted to take a moment to talk about a little something special to us. But Sean, while he's on location, I'm glad that he's on location and not here right now because I don't know that I could have this other person in the room. Why don't you bring in our special guest?
Yeah. Why don't you come in?
All right, get him in here. Again, I don't know why we agreed to do this, but okay. You there?
Hello, fake nerds.
Oh, gosh.
This is the arch nemesis and head supervillain of the Hero Movie Podcast, Dr. Dan Du.
Hi, Dr. Dan Du.
When I'm not disappointing my family or writing fan fiction for the short-lived Saturday morning cartoon Teen Car, I'm trying to kill the only podcast that acknowledges my existence, the Hero Movie Podcast.
Oh, boy.
The reason why I'm gracing you with my presence today is so I can talk to you jackbags about Patreon. You want to piss me off? Tell me how much you think the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghostbuster? Tell me how much you think the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider looks like the main character in Dirty Dancing 2. if the main character from Dirty Dancing 2 was set on fire. The only other way to disappoint me is by supporting this podcast by donating to Patreon, specifically patreon.com/HMP. And let me tell you, Massive Dog Dump, something. If you even donate $1, I'm going to give you your own Dr. Dan Dude nickname. You don't believe me? Somebody who goes by the name of Apollonius donated to patreon.com/HMP.
Yeah.
And from now on, they will be forever known as Episiotomy.
Oh.
Micah Hunter also donated to patreon.com/HMP. And from this point forward, even Micah Hunter's own mother will call Micah Rocket Face from this point forward.
Oh, dude.
Because I want to blast off on it. It doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't have to. I'm a bad guy. Anyway, you also get to choose what movies HMP reviews. You get special content, and you get a flaming bag of dog crap on your doorstep. Courtesy of me, Dr. Dan Do. So don't even think about donating to patreon.com/HMP. You know, one time when I was a baby, my mom tried leaving me at the fire station, but they gave me back due to the stink. The stink, I says. I'm Dr. Dan Do. Burn in Hades!
All right, put Sean back on the line. My God, seriously. I mean...
Go screw, Portrais. Go screw.
Well... You know, patreon.com/HMP. So I don't know why we do it, because we keep wanting to win him over. We try to win over all the fans, even the ones that hate us. And so every now and then we're going to ask Dr. Do to come in and, talk with our Patreon people and everything. So, I don't know. If you want Dr. Dan Do to give you a nice little blessing as he just did our latest patrons, patreon.com/HMP. But my gosh.
Look, every good story needs a good bad guy. I mean, the reason why the first Die Hard works so well is because of the villain. The villain is the best.
Yeah, he's definitely our Hans Gruber. There's no doubt about that.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into it. Dadgummit, this thing, I tell you what. Things never work out the way they're supposed to. Okay, let's get into it, guys. Here is the trailer for Doomed, the Untold Story. I cannot make this dumb thing stop.
What are you talking about?
Hold on. I was just trying to... All right, I had to stop the other Fantastic Four movie from playing in the background. I used the theme song at the beginning of the show, and it just kept playing. It's just like, no, I want to live. I want to live. And I'm like, no, you must die. So here now is the trailer for Doomed, the Untold Story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. Maybe.
I've had a lot of strange experiences after all these years in the film business, but I have to say the Fantastic Four ranks somewhere near the top.
It's clobbering time.
Like a phantom, this film.
Strange.
It was like a feeling that I've never experienced before.
It's a piece of history.
I never would have thought then, was it 20 years later, that I'd be sitting here talking about it.
This thing just won't die.
Expect trouble.
I didn't know then, all of the machinery that had been at work.
It was the seedy, dark side of Hollywood.
We really wanted people to see this.
How many movies did Roger Corman make and never release? 1.
Wait a minute. Why? We're gonna let them take this movie away from us and not get anything out of it? We gotta show people that we made a movie. That's how you get another job.
All this effort, time, and all the work that went into making that film, and that pointless, meaningless.
This film was never really intended to be a film. I said, oh yeah? You watch.
I think this documentary I think it's about time.
Hopefully, we might be like the last piece of this whole puzzle. The great, untold, never-seen version, the original Fantastic Four.
Finally, after 20 years, this story is going to be told.
Unfortunately, this version of the Fantastic Four really was doomed.
All right, that was a trailer for Doom, the untold story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, and it is our documentary. It's new release. Technically, it's not even new release. This is like this is a first. Well, I don't say it's a first, but it's a darn near close first enough for us. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A documentary that tells the history of the ill-fated movie version of the Fantastic Four that was executive produced by Roger Corman. This is written and directed by Marty Langford. Starring, there's a ton of people. Alex Hyde White. You've got Michael Bailey, Rebecca Stabb, Jay Underwood. Let's see, Roger Corman himself, Joseph Culp. There's a boatload of people in here. Chris Gore, Kat Green. Now, we have not yet reviewed the Fantastic Four Roger Corman movie on HMP yet.
Let me ask you this question. Have you seen it before?
I remember seeing pieces as a kid. I don't, but like, even then in 1994 when we were still kind of in the, you're just post-Batman at this point, but we're not, as they mentioned in the movie, this is not a great time for Marvel, properties.
Right, it's Captain America, it's The Punisher, Dolph Lundgren's Punisher.
Yeah. Movies that we have reviewed on this show.
Not good.
Check the archives. But yeah, it's not a good time and everything. And I kind of grew up in a house. My dad was like a Fantastic Four guy from Go. Like,
really? That was his jam?
Yeah, literally from Go. I mean, we've got, it's super tattered, but we got a copy of Numero Uno in the house. Like all through, I'd say probably the first 200-300 issues or so. So big Fantastic Four fans in the Portrais house.
Wow.
And so, but yeah, this really didn't because we were Fantastic Four fans, didn't really kind of jive. You look at it and you're just like, oh, this is not right. This is not good. We can't have anything to do with this. So I'd only ever really seen pieces, and it's one of those that, like, dude, it looks so bad that I've never actually even watched it, and I really do want to save it for a big review on HMP. Whenever we do a live show, that's always kind of been our goal, is if we ever do like a live show with people and stuff and an audience and whatnot, we want to review this particular movie, the Fantastic Four movie, because I think it'll be a great, audiences around and people and whatnot. So that will happen at some point, people, I promise you. But no, I haven't seen it. You've probably seen it at this point, I would imagine, yeah?
I have. I've seen it. This is one of the first things where, there's there's those chaser things when you're a collector of all things nerdy.
Oh yeah.
Miracle Man comic books and Fantastic Four movie, the Back to the Future with Eric Stoltz footage, like that stuff there.
Yeah, there's always like a little grail, a little something hidden. And back in the day, like comic book conventions really were the places that you got this stuff. This is where you could pick up the Fantastic Four or the even up to as recently the Wonder Woman pilot that aired on CBS. You could you could find a bootleg copy of that where people made up a cover and put it on a DVD or a VHS tape, depending upon what era you're in and whatnot.
And so that's exactly how I got it. I was at the HeroCon. And, you go through and you're like, okay, I've seen that. And, like the Star Wars Christmas special was in there and, things like that, because you couldn't see that at the time, if I'm remembering correctly. But then, bang, one of the things that I'd heard about for years and years, I actually saw it. And so I bought the DVD. And I always wondered, how did this get here? Like, because it was so under lock and key. I don't know if you remember, Adam, but it was one of those things where it was, oh, you are never going to put your hands on this.
Yeah.
Because I got it probably around 2002, 2003, like around there. And so this was one of those things that you were never, like, it seemed impossible that you were ever going to be able to see this. And so I was very, very excited when I got it. And so and come on, you hear, even back then, you hear the name Roger Corman, you hear that the movie was made for $1 million, you know what you're getting into. Like, yeah. There's nothing here where you're going to be like, oh wow, that's this was surprisingly great. Why didn't they ever release it? That was never going to be the case. And so I saw it, and it's bad. It's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things about it that's so cool is that the people in it are really, really going for it in the movie. There's no one on screen anyway who doesn't want to be there. They're all in. And it's what makes it so good. And I've said this time and time again on the show. Give me that every day versus a movie where it's just all done half measures,
Or somebody's winking into the camera going, I know we're making a horrible piece of crap. I hate that, too.
Yeah, me too. The Jada Pinkett Smith on Gotham, like she clearly thinks that what they're doing is terrible on that show. These guys are so earnest when they're making this movie that it's, don't get me wrong, it's impossibly bad, but it's the kind of bad where you want to watch it more. Like I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times since I bought it, which is a lot for me. I don't rewatch a lot of bad things because I just don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
But this thing here is so earnest, and it's kind of fun when you're watching it. There's a whole lot of, Rob Liefeld, no backgrounds kind of thing going on.
We just threw in a color.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing on this show. And it's don't get me wrong, it's terrible. It's not good at all. But I like it anyway because they really, really are going for it. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. Like I really enjoy watching that kind of thing. So then smash cut to, I started hearing about that Kickstarter for this documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, I wonder if I was right. I wonder if my first assumption that these guys really, really put their blood, sweat, and tears into this project. And you learn that is exactly what happened. That everybody in this documentary, they were all on board. They all did what they think is their best work. I mean, to a point,
Yeah.
And even people who aren't main characters in the movie they interview, and those folks thought the same way too, because it's all very earnest and it's all very honest, and it's just really fun to hear 20 years later that they really like this project, and it makes you appreciate a movie that's not very good more when you watch it.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with bad movies. I mean, I reviewed one on the Film Find this past week called The Disappointments Room, which I think has already gone out of theaters like in 1 week's time, I think.
That's funny because that's my girlfriend worked on that movie.
Well, here's the thing. The movie looks pretty good. It looks like it looks fairly low budget. It's not super big or anything, but everybody in there is super, like, they're super into it, right? It, like, you can tell that what they were really trying to make a good movie, and the fact that they were trying so hard and yet it's such a giant, turd makes it that much better.
I've got a Hero Movie Podcast connection with that because do you know who wrote that movie?
Wentworth Miller.
That is correct.
Yeah, he and DJ Caruso actually co-wrote that thing together. Yeah. Crazy.
It is crazy. I wonder why he's not in it.
I don't know. Well, I can't see a place for him in it because he couldn't have really he wouldn't have been able to pull off the dad role. He maybe could have pulled off the friend role that comes in kind of later, but that's about it. There's really no other parts for him, to be honest. That's the big thing. But
Lindsay is going to be very excited that you saw that movie.
Yeah, I did. And like it was awful, but I had such a blast watching it because it was like this movie. It's like people were, I think they knew what they were making probably wasn't super great, but they enjoyed the heck out of it. They were really flipping trying, man, and it was good. And that's the biggest thing that comes across in this documentary. Everybody from, the casting director to the editor to even people over at, the companies that, really were going to be putting this thing out, supposedly, everybody really thought, hey, it's tough. We have $1 million and we kind of sort of find out, not officially, I don't think, that technically it probably wasn't even $1 million. It was probably closer to $500,000 because maybe somebody didn't put up as much as they thought that they might have. But they had like nothing. They had nothing. They just reused sets from Carnosaur, another Roger Corman movie. So, Steven Spielberg puts out Jurassic Park. Roger Corman puts out Carnosaur. And it looks like, old Ray Harryhausen stuff looks better than, Carnosaur does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's all foam dinosaur. I mean, and it looks it.
It's like, well, we just put the hand right up this dinosaur's butt and just kind of there we go. That's a dinosaur. Shut up.
So when you're watching the documentary, what you end up learning is that the higher ups on this movie basically pull a fast one on the cast and crew, and that they had them do the work. They had them do, they all worked hard to make this project get off the ground, and they never intended on releasing it. And this is something that's not new. Like, I know Warren Beatty shot that 15-minute Dick Tracy short so he could keep the rights to it a couple years ago.
We talk about it on HMP or on the Film Find a lot, where it's just like he goes back every couple of years, will don at the fedora and everything, do a little interview and go like, yeah, we're still working on it, just so he can keep the rights to it. And no one else can pick it up and go and do it. So, yeah.
And so that's nothing new. Like, this isn't a brand new idea. But what is different about it is that the producers knew the deal before they made the movie in the first place.
Right.
So, all of this cast and crew, they put in their blood, sweat, and tears to make this thing work, and nothing came of it. And, the actors are the ones that they're going to interview most, of course, because the actors are the ones who are front and center.
Right.
But I guarantee you that the people, like that one part where they talk about how the guy who wrote the score for this movie, they put in like $5,000 of their own money just so it would be a much better sounding
and you
score.
heard it at the top of the thing, man. That's a great sounding score. It sounds very cinematic, very of that time and everything. Sounds high quality. I mean, it's just like, wow, they really like they went out for this score, man.
Yeah, they did. And so what ends up happening is that these guys, in very bad faith, made people put in their own money, put in way more hours than they would on just some regular job to make this thing work. And so all of these people are really, really hurt by this. And they should be, because this is a bad faith move. And, I don't know how much, who made what was the name of the production company? Because it's not Corman, it's the other company.
Well, so New Horizons was one of them.
Right.
And then the other one it starts with a C. I can't remember off the top of my head.
But New Horizons is Corman.
Right. I'm going to say Calumet because that sounds good. It's not it, but that's just, remember in that an old watching thing back in the day? Just get yourself some Calumet. It gets your stains right out your clothes.
So that company there is basically who the documentary is blaming all of this on, that this happened. And what the part that I still have a question about, and I'm asking it to the listeners and to you, Adam, is when they make this documentary, it seems like Corman is free of blame because it sounds like they think Corman thought it was going to be made into a movie. I know Roger Corman enough from my experience working with his crew that he knows everything that's happening. He has his hand on every single bit of a movie being made. So my question to you is, do you think that the documentary is correct and that Corman is completely free of blame on this? Or do you think that he knew that this was the deal going into it in the first place?
I could be wrong, and I think I need to rewatch, in which I'll spoiler alert real quick. I did really like this documentary. But I think I need to watch again because I think they said, I can't remember who it was, but I think Corman I forget who didn't put more money in, because they said, hey, look, we got X amount from this person. They're supposed to get, like 750 here, 750 from the other one, right? But somebody did put in some money, and then one of them kind of may or may not have actually even put in money. And I feel like the one that didn't was actually Corman's side. I could be wrong.
I think you are wrong. I think it's the other side.
Was it the other way around?
Because the other side put up money up front, and then Corman matched it, and then they were supposed to bring in more. And that's when it all stops.
It's tough. It's tough, people, because they don't have names like Paramount and Warner Brothers or even New Line or something. It's just like a fly-by-night studio that shut your face. We do this so we can avoid taxes.
Right.
Kind of thing. It's like, oh, that's a shell company for we sell toothpaste over here. We don't make movies. I don't know what you're talking about.
So what do you think is my question to you? What do you believe that Corman knew, or that he didn't know that this was never going to
I feel that he had
theaters?
I feel that he had to know, and it's interesting seeing him because he does participate in the documentary. But he also, it feels like he's a smiley guy. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, he is.
He's usually got a smile on his face. He's
very mild mannered.
Yeah.
And he's very affable when you see him.
Oh, of course. Like what's his Lloyd Kaufman, who is also in the movie, is also that way too. He's a very, like, you meet the guy, he's just bubbly, he's happy, he's nice to meet everybody. Just a showman and a heck of a guy. And but it does feel like Corman's he's going, yeah, did this movie, very proud that we did this movie, but it feels like he's there's something under the surface.
I agree. I totally agree.
It feels like he's just going, I'll do this. I'll say yes. I think he knows the history of where this movie is and kind of the pantheon of bad movies, and coming from someone who makes almost exclusively bad movies, he knows what that means. And I can't see him not knowing what really happened there. I'm sure that I'd love to know if and they asked any of the kind of questions of like, come on, bro, did you really know anything about this? I mean, did you know for reals? Maybe that's on the iTunes extras. I don't know.
I think that Corman probably danced a very fine line when the documentary was being made, because he didn't want to come off looking like a bad guy.
No, because I mean, he's kind of like an icon, and like, I mean, while a man who makes a lot of cheap movies, you don't hear a lot of people talking super smack about the guy.
No, you don't. And the reason why is because he you can pay people either with hope or with money, and he pays people with hope.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes no bones about it. Look, you're going to be working for really cheap, but you could also move on from here, as so many people have.
I mean, exactly. You got your Joe Dantes, your Ron Howards, your Jack Nicholsons. You've had a lot of guys that that have started out in kind of these real low level stuff and have just graduated their way on up into big time filmmaking and are household names now. Right. And this work could not have happened without Roger Corman. And and you had even people that were sort of staples of, Alex Hyde White was kind of a staple of some Corman movies and stuff. They were brought in, and and I think if anybody would kind of know about the stuff that's sort of going down, it would be him. And I think had he known specifically that this was going to be kind of the wash that it was, I don't think he ever would have done it.
You're right. There is a side note to this, which is that when you're working on a Corman property, when you're working on his shows, if you are a director, if you are a production designer, if you are higher up, if you're a higher up, if you're a grown up, as we say in the business,
mm-hmm.
then you know the deal going into it, that look, I'm going to be working for cheap, but with a purpose. The addendum here is that if you work in the Corman studio system and you are lower, if you are below the line, you will go crazy very quickly. I don't want to talk about it right now because I mention it later, much later at the end of the show, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But he has, I mean, he will grind it out of you if you let him. And I mean, he's a producer. That's his job.
Right.
His job is to get the product out. However,
hell or high water. Exactly.
So, you can't give hope to someone who you were a prop assistant on a Roger Corman movie. Wow. Then by all means, let me make you the prop master on this $20 million movie. That doesn't happen. That jump doesn't happen.
You couldn't sit and complain about it, but a lot of times, even little bits like that, if you were good enough and you weren't, crying up and down about it, he very much kind of worked in that sort of like, okay, it's your turn now kind of thing. Especially if you were above a certain line, of course.
You are not wrong. That is the way that he works. If you were the prop assistant on one of his movies and now he needs a prop master and he thought that you did a good enough job, he will make you the prop master on a job next.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you could keep working your way up through the system and stuff, and it's just like, okay, well, guess what, little Ronnie Howard? Now it's time for you to direct this picture.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, James Cameron, you helped on the special effects on this one. Okay, now we're going to graduate you up to the big leagues here, and that's how a lot of these cats did, and just working through the system. And if you kept your nose clean and did the work and grinded it out, man, you could become something.
Exactly, but you need to have the wherewithal to do it.
Oh, exactly. That's the big one.
And that is the problem. That therein lies the rub. Where if you are, if it takes you a while to grind it out, you are going to wash out, and that happens a lot with Corman people. Is that for every Sylvester Stallone story of working with Corman, there are 20. Guy who played Mr. Fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, or you could just be like, Dick Miller, who is just kind of in so many of these movies and stuff. Not necessarily a household name to everyone, but has also kind of become like an icon for who he is and what he does.
Yes.
And can graduate to things like, because he's got like the Corman connection with like Joe Dante B in Gremlins, for example, and stuff like that. He would never reach to the, he's not Marlon Brando, but he is a heck of a Dick Miller,
He's the best Dick Miller in the business.
That's true. He is the best Dick Miller that there possibly is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of that kind of going on. One thing that I guess I didn't really realize at the entire time, because I don't know, but have you seen anything with Jay Underwood in it?
I've seen Uncle Buck.
Okay.
Is that who you're talking about right now?
Yeah. So he was in Uncle Buck, but the biggest thing for me growing up, the thing that he was in that I absolutely loved, because I was a stupid little kid at that age, was Not Quite Human. These were like made for TV. They were probably Disney or something like that. They're not very good, but man, did I like Not Quite Human. It's like a TV movie in 1987 where he plays like a robot.
Well, I was too old to be watching those movies, so I at that age I'm in 9th grade. Like I'm too old to be watching.
Yeah. I'm 5, so it doesn't. It makes sense for me to be watching that. This would probably aired on Disney Channel or some crap like that.
For me, that age, like when I'm around that age, like the sweet spot for me is Spaceman in King Arthur's Court. Daryl, the movie Daryl, was a robot boy.
Yeah,
like that. Those are the movies that I grew up with, where it's basically the same exact thing, just with different actors.
Those are my Robot Man movies.
He's my boy robot.
Which, let me tell you, speaking of robots, you seen this? What do you call it there? The new HBO joint for. You're talking about Westworld. Westworld, yeah. Oh, dude, I was excited because I was just like, oh, I like Westworld the movie, and I'm like, and I always thought like this would be a good idea for a remake, and boy, does it look dope. That's just an aside, but man, I'm excited for that show.
They've got the right people for it too. I mean, every casting choice that I see when someone new pops up, I'm like, yep.
You're just like, yes, this person, excellent.
That's how you do it. Oh, instead you can't find Yul Brynner because he's gone from this world.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Ed Harris.
But okay, perfect.
Come on, man. You can't cast better than that.
Speaking of casting, though, in this Fantastic Four movie, boy, have they cast the ladies well. And let me tell you, the ladies hold up, man.
Yeah, they have been blessed with not having to do much work in their older age.
Rebecca Stabb and Kat Green both hold up fantastically well. They both look dynamite.
They do. And, one of the things, because, and maybe this is the sexist in me, is that I figured that if there was going to be someone who made this movie who would not be totally on board, it would have been the ladies. But they were in it.
They were in it, man.
Full in, man.
They bought into everything, and that's what like just warms your heart with this thing so much, is that everybody was just giving it the old college try so hard, man.
I wonder if they think if they like maybe if I would have made a different superhero movie, my career would have gone further. Like if they think that way, you know.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I can't see it otherwise. But then you have, now let me get your impression, because you've seen the movie here. You got Joseph Culp playing Dr. Doom.
That's right, Robert Culp's kid.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously coming from Hollywood royalty, as it were. I like like I said, I like the guy's kind of presence now and everything. He does have that kind of, oh, that actor kind of thing sometimes.
Yeah, he does.
Where it's just like, okay, one of these, we've got an actor on stage, everyone.
Yeah, you know what he reminds me of, actually, specifically him, because of the way that he's aged and the way that he looked back then, is he reminds me of John Hamm. Because John Hamm in the 90s, there's a reason why John Hamm didn't work in the 90s. It's because he looks so weird with his chiseled features, trying to look like he listened to Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
You know? And it's the same thing with Culp, where Culp, now that he's aged into his looks and he looks like a distinguished gentleman, and people are going to take him a lot more seriously because he's got that face. The face looks like somebody of authority. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
some people were born 45.
That's right. And he's definitely one of those people. But back in the 90s, when they made this movie, he looked off. You know, like that guy has, like, you don't run with your boys. You're not playing beer pong, you know, like you look like the principal of a school, but you're in your mid-20s, you know? And so now when you see him talk, when you see him speak in this documentary, you listen to him, at least I did. I listened to him much more than I would have listened to him when he was playing Dr. Doom, you know?
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. He is a capital T theater actor.
Oh, no doubt. But the nice thing is, again, it's one of those, they were giving it the college try. They brought him in because obviously with the Dr. Doom mask and everything, you're going to be a bit muffled for some certain lines and everything. And he's like, hey, well, I'm coming in for the looping sessions. I'm going to do all the VO and the whole thing. And they were like, oh, no, you're just doing, X, Y, and Z lines. And he was just like, he'd listen to some of the playback and stuff and was like, oh my gosh, this just sounds horrible. This is not going to play. Some of these are just really, really bad. Let's just do the whole thing. Nah, we only got enough to just do this stuff right here. So again, it's one of those things of like, even once they finished everything up, they're still just like, gosh, they really wanted to try. I mean, all the way through the editing phase and everything. That's what was surprising, is that it's not like you get everything in the can and then you're like, okay, now it's on to post-production, and then you get to post-production. Because I think that we've all done it. Anybody who's, kind of shot some stuff. I've shot things where you're just like, oh, this, maybe we can salvage something from this. Or then you get to post and you're just like, this guitar picks, man, I can't do jack with this. And then you're really disappointed, and you can give up, especially if you don't have to. You can give up, right? And they didn't. They didn't. No. They got what they got, and they're just like, they would break into the editing offices and off times and everything, and just pop on the Moviola and just start cutting and everything, putting in extra work and talking to effects companies to do stuff that they didn't have money to do. And like,
yeah, my question is. Because they talked about the one special effects guy who worked on Independence Day, and they said what a terrible job he did. I wonder if that guy, when he finds out, because it eventually is going to get around that because they don't mention him by name. But I wonder when it comes around to him that this movie is being made and he's being blamed for a lot of the stuff. Like, what is his reaction going to be to this documentary,
Well, I think we've all worked with those people. And number one, I think he knows. I think he knows what the people that just kind of fudge the resume a little bit there, just go, oh, I can totally do that. I mean, actors do it all the time, but acting is a different thing from running special effects, you know?
Well, for sure, but I mean, this guy, he fudged a lot because he said that he could do all of this stuff, and he didn't do it. And so they're blaming him for a lot of the money being gone. You know, that's a pretty big that's a pretty big finger point right there.
Oh, no doubt.
And I wonder if they had to edit around them name dropping him, because I would have done that if I worked on that. And I was like, we only had $1 million and we lost $25,000 because of this guy.
Carl Stevenson is a jerk.
Exactly.
We hate Carl. Everyone hated Carl. He smelled. He never really bathed all that much that anyone could tell on the set. And, you know, and we're pretty sure that he keistered a lot of that money.
They dropped him at the fire station.
He was no good to anybody. But no, I see that happening for sure. I mean, I don't, but, and it's just so bizarre, but like it really is to see like all the, now you tell me that, now have you ever had the kind of, the secondhand set that kind of went on in this movie? So a lot of this, they go, hey, we had still stuff left over from Carnosaur, the aforementioned dinosaur truck eating movie. And we just kind of repainted the sets and everything, which was very often the case in kind of Roger Corman movies and the low budget movies of that type, where it's just like, hey, we got this crap for a little while longer. Let's just, you know, do whatever we can with it. Slap a coat of paint on it, throw a couple of lights.
Right, but that's not unusual, Adam.
Oh, no,
that happens a lot, where you get sets from something else that you've used before, especially on episodic, on television.
Oh yeah,
you will reuse a lot of things, whether it's backdrops or props or set dressing. You will reuse because it helps your budget to reuse things. You try to reuse things as much as possible, and so for something like a Corman movie, you got to figure that what they do at Corman Studios is such daily routine that they're very used to having to do that, the art department on that show. And so to reuse the Carnosaur sets, I know that they said it begrudgingly in the documentary, that happens on big budget movies. That happens all the time.
And I'll be honest, it didn't look that bad. I mean, compare it because they do a little A/B comparison there, and it's not awful.
It is awful, but
I mean, for what it is and what the materials with which they have. Let's put it that way.
It's basically student film level. What this movie
God,
is
yes,
like.
Yeah. I mean, I got some of those that look just like that. But you know what? One of my favorites was of all times when I really found out that they did this, when it really kind of came for me, was watching an episode of Seinfeld. Where Elaine was dating a guy who was technically homeless. And so she finally ends up going to this apartment that he's squatting in that's just all jacked up and everything. And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I know this apartment. What is this? Hey, this is an apartment from The Single Guy. You remember The Single Guy?
I do not remember, but that's funny.
It's a very...
Oh, wait a minute, I do. That's Sarah Silverman's brother.
Jonathan Silverman, yeah. So that was a Jonathan
right.
Silverman joint that was on for, it was on for 2 years. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was on that long. But it was like his, the main set there. It was his apartment and everything, but it was just trashed. So that was where he was kind of squatting and everything.
Sure, because that's the way that they do it when
great.
you're on the back lot. I mean, you constantly are reusing flats, and you're reusing everything if you can do it. Mm-hmm. And so to move forward a bit here, right? So do you get the feeling that they think that this is that there's going to be a resurgence of their Fantastic Four movie?
Well,
because it feels half and half to me, that half of the cast thinks that this is going to blow up now.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is kind of like, you're right. Half the cast is just like, boy, it was a thing that never was, but man, we put our heart and soul into it, and it was a very our gang kind of experience, a little spit and polish, putting on a show.
Right.
And then there's just like, then there's the other half that's going, oh no, you don't understand. This thing, it's going to happen. It will happen one day, and America will open up its eyes and realize the masterpiece that has been sitting under their feet for these many years. No, they won't.
So let's name names here, because I know who I think those people are. Who do you think?
Oh, Hyde White, the guy who plays Mr. Fantastic. He wanted this movie to be great, and God bless him. He's again. You feel so bad because everybody really did put their heart and soul into it, and you feel them wanting it so bad, but it's just like, oh, they're gonna know. They're gonna know this movie. This documentary here. It's gonna shed a little bit of light. It's gonna shed a little light on the darkness. I think he thinks this is gonna get like the Troll 2 kind of little thing. The best worst movie ever. That documentary, because that really spurred on a lot of people who had never even seen Troll 2 to really get it, and but that's also was already an existing much bigger cult movie, midnight movie kind of thing than this movie ever was.
Well, but the reason for that is that Troll 2 got released. I mean, Fantastic Four's never been released, not really.
Yeah. I think that would be the biggest thing, and honestly, it's just like. It seems like this should be an amazing Make-A-Wish for Alex Hyde White, just to go, hey, look, man. I think if he comes down with cancer, I don't wish this upon him, but if he comes down with cancer, maybe they'll give him maybe they'll put him down to the Chinese theater there, and let him give him one good send off, and just be like, there's your movie, and then at the end he rolls a tear and then just slips into the great beyond or something. Hopefully that's 30 years from now when he's old and gray and all that kind of jazz. But that's the best case scenario.
What I'm hearing from you right now is that that you've said something terrible and now you're backpedaling.
No, look.
I'm getting from you.
No, I stand behind my statement. I mean, I'm not saying I want the guy to get cancer, but I'm saying if and he gets cancer when he's older, when he's much older, because I want the guy. I don't wish cancer or death upon anyone. That's just mean. But
okay, let me give you the verbal parachute so you can get out of this.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Thank you.
So to me, the other person that I believe thinks that this movie is going to have tremendous success now is Culp. I think Culp believes with his whole heart that this movie is going to explode onto populace once it gets released.
Oh, he basically does he does say, look, when I go back and I redub my lines, then things will be okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's I'll go back and I'll loop and it'll be A-okay, man. Everything will be fine.
I forgot that he does say when I go back. I forgot about
It's basically just look, it's going to happen at this point, but when I go back and reloop the lines and everything, we tighten up a little bit of the editing or whatnot, it's going to get a release and, everything will be hunky-dory.
I wonder if he believes if the movie... it's because he thinks the movie is good that's going to happen, or that he is good in it is the reason why that's going to happen.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah. I know we're coming to a close here, but I got to ask this question because this movie is so specifically of an era where you had to look for stuff, man. Remember, oh yeah. You had to go hunting for stuff like this to find it. And now, through internet, you can basically find whatever you want.
If I'm not mistaken, you can see it on YouTube for free right now.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
I think so. I could be wrong, but at least when I was looking for the trailer, I think I saw it off to the side. So it's very readily available. Let's put it that way.
Do you have a chaser that you still have never seen that you've always been trying to put your eyes on?
Honestly, this has been one for a while. It's kind of maybe over the last maybe 10 years or so, I've kind of really wanted to see it. And especially over the last, 2.5 years, I've been putting it off on account of, like I said earlier, this is something that we want to do as, for a live show. And I kind of want to keep it in check until then. And again, it's a lot tougher these days with everything going, oh, I'd like to see that. Well, it's very readily available. There was a while where before Taken hit the screens, right? There was a trailer for Taken, and then it took 2 years before it actually hit American theaters, right? And so I had gotten a hold of a copy from somewhere overseas and everything that was the proper R-rated version, which was never actually released in theaters. It's out on Blu-ray now, and I own it, so don't, kick my shorts in for that world. I gave Luc Besson some money.
Hey, we got a new that's a new catchphrase for HMP. Don't kick my shorts in.
Don't kick my shorts in here, because I already did it. So I gave him plenty of money, and I saw the third one in theaters too. So I've suffered enough.
That's rough, man. I say this to you off air all the time. Allow me to say this on air now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you think you've done, but you need to stop punishing yourself. You keep seeing all of these movies. Stop punishing yourself. It's okay. It's all right. Whatever you think you've done, it's not that bad.
I must atone for my own personal sins by indulging in the sins of others.
That's what I think. That there's some sort of I must purify myself, and the only way to do it is by watching Taken 3.
So what you're saying is I just need to get like a girlfriend that hits me around a little bit. Okay.
Well, I suggest that for everybody.
There you go. It's it's good for what ails you, I says. But no, so I've nothing really that comes to mind that says like, oh, I've been kind of searching out for that and everything. The stuff that I have kind of searched for, I found like the Wonder Woman thing, the Witchblade pilot.
Right.
Before that came out, I was like, oh, I want to see that, and you're never as excited as you are when you actually get to watch it.
Well, yeah, finding it is the big thing, right?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, look at this great big, this treasure that I've unlocked, and then you open it up and it says, "Peace on Earth" was all it said, and and then you're just like, oh, crud.
Because the two things that I still have never laid eyes on are the Eric Stoltz footage of Back to the Future.
They claim.
I know that they keep releasing it piecemeal through the new Blu-ray releases of Back to the Future and stuff. But they are showing you very limited pictures.
I think Bob Gale's last thing has basically been like, look, when we're dead, they'll probably release it, kind of thing.
I see.
Because I think even he kind of wants to get it out there, but I think it's a powers that be thing or something.
Sure.
I don't know exactly what the deal is, but I feel like they want to get it out there. But the Bobs, I think, are basically like, we'll probably have to die before that stuff gets out, which is a sad way. I'm just like, oh, dude, be a little bit more optimistic than that.
When you hear the guy who played Biff speak about Eric Stoltz on set. It is some of my favorite Hollywood stories. It's so good. It's so good.
Eric Stoltz is who you'd imagine him to be.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
But
and the other thing, of course, is which I mentioned earlier, is the Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy short, which will never see the light of day ever.
No, because he's just doing all that crap so he can maintain the rights and everything, which honestly sounds, and we'll wrap it up with this, is kind of how this seems to be Fantastic Four's kind of untimely curse, if you will.
Yeah.
Is that it happened for this movie that's just like, hey, we've got to use the rights, so let's just put out something. And then that's what resulted in this movie in 1994. That's what just most recently happened in 2015 with the Fantastic Four movie. Their rights were about to lapse and head on back to Marvel, and they were like, by George, they are not. And they said, forget that crap, homie, and we're going to make our own movie. And then it turned out to be not so great, and then everybody was like, oh, well, this is a piece of crap. And they're just like, well, but we still got the rights, playa. And, now you could have those times where, like, even with, Ghost Rider, they make the second one, it flops, and it's just like, hey, we still get to keep the rights. We don't even want them. You can just have them. Just get them out of our... No. For God's sake, just please. Just make the hurting stop.
Try to get the Nick Cage stink out of the costume. Bye.
Yeah, just air that out there. Just shake it as much as you can and see what you can handle. And that's how speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's how they got them because they made such a crap movie. They still retain the rights, and they were like, nah, we're good. Thanks for that. And sadly, I think Fantastic Four has kind of really been in that bubble of hurt, and it feels like it's going to kind of continue because they still are like there's still somebody over at Sony Pictures and everything that goes, or not Sony, but Fox, who thinks, hey man, we can still recover from this.
You know who that is. You know the person responsible for it. They even name check him in the documentary.
Well, these people need to. But hey, who's to say? Who's to say? And like, I will say this though, it's discouraging but not surprising that Stan Lee really did kind of poop on this and what looked like the Hilton conference room in Atlanta. Which honestly, like, I'm looking at it, I'm just like, this looks like the Hilton Grand Ballroom in Atlanta. It really does. But he just going, we didn't like, man, when Stan don't like it, boy, he will talk some smack about it. He don't give a crap.
He will.
If he didn't have his own stink on it, he's just like, well, it's not me, true believers. Every one of these chuckleheads come in there, and it's not what I wanted to do because I respect you. And then goes and craps on something else that you do.
Yeah.
Because it's what Stan does. But before we get to the end of the show here and everybody, we got to figure out how this documentary relates back to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of the Blood Fist franchise? Roger Corman has produced 9 of them since 1989. 9. And
Jeez.
8 of them star Don the Dragon Wilson.
Yeah.
As a super bonus, a pre-Tybo Billy Blanks is in the first one. Ooh. He plays the bad guy. I haven't seen any of them because, to me, action movies will never beat the world's greatest karate story ever put to film, Gymkata. A movie about a gymnast who also does karate.
Of course.
There's a scene in the movie where the main character gets chased through the woods by some hooligans, and he proceeds to beat the ever-living jazz out of them when he finds a pommel horse in the woods.
As one does.
In Gymkata, someone left a pommel horse in the woods, and thankfully our hero happened upon the one thing that would help him perform his own brand of karate. I mean, seriously, what are the odds that a gymnast would get chased through the woods and he just stumbled upon it? That's amazing. You should totally see Gymkata if you haven't. It takes itself way too seriously. A few times the main character actually yells out the word Gymkata. It's horribly acted and everything that's terrible about the 80s. I love it. Anyway, Roger Corman wishes he had something as awesome as Gymkata. He does have Death Race 2000, however, a movie we've spoken about before. For what that movie is, it's okay. But let's not celebrate Roger Corman. People who work on Roger Corman movies basically work for free. They work very long hours for what they hope will end up being their big break. The only person who doesn't work for free is Roger Corman. One of the worst people I've ever worked with worked for Roger Corman, and I don't know if she was crazy before her experiences or after, but she was one of the people that made me say to myself, this woman can't even figure out how to put gas in her car. Surely I can do what she does. And that is just what I did. So thank you, nameless, horrible woman. Without your terrible influence, I never would have thought about taking your job away from you so no one would ever have to work for you again. She didn't work on Death Race 2000, though, but you know who did? The only man who answers the question, what would Joe Mantegna look like if he worked out? And that man's name is Sylvester Stallone. Stallone wrote some of his own dialogue for Death Race 2000, and if you've ever seen it, you know how very easy that fact is to believe. Weird, unfunny dad jokes? Stallone may have invented dad jokes. So there you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection. Now, Jonathan Cabot, that's the main character's name from Gymkata. Let's review this documentary so we can go back to my unofficial home taste test of the fish fillet versus the Burger King Whaler.
Oh, I don't even think there's a competition on that. You just throw up either way.
No one wins.
Everyone loses in this game. That's a Russian roulette with every chamber filled.
Oh no,
not good. So let's get down to it on our show here. We have the patented Robin rating system. Since Sean just regaled us with the Stallone connection, I'll go ahead. I think this is a really great documentary. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's done quite well, and it's exactly what you expect it to be. I mean, it's nothing. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, but everything was the production and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, it looks good. It sounds good. It's mostly a talking heads documentary, but that's not a bad thing. In this particular case, that's what you have, and then you throw in some B-roll of the movie and whatnot, some pictures from the past, and Bob's your uncle, you know?
Roberto Esutillo.
Exactly. And that, I mean, you know, it is what it is, and it's quite good, and I'm going to give this a very, very strong Tim Drake on this. When it comes out, it's definitely worth getting, and I think I will drop the extra little bucks there on iTunes when it comes out with all the bonus interviews and whatnot, because some of this stuff's interesting, man.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's a Tim Drake as well, Adam. You know, I hear what I've learned from the last documentary of a superhero movie that never came out is the documentary more interesting and better made than the movie that they're speaking of.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in the case of Troll 2, I think in the case of the Death of Superman movie documentary, this is the best of those three documentaries, in my opinion. I like this. I like this documentary. I like that it gives you its own narrative. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with that. It's not impartial. I mean, they are trying to get their point across of what they believe happened to this movie, and I like that about this movie.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a Tim Drake all the way. I really do like it.
And it's nice because it doesn't like unlike the Superman documentary and a couple other things, it doesn't really. It's very matter of fact. It very kind of states your points here for you. It doesn't say, hey, look, you should feel, you know, X, Y, or Z about this. It just goes, here's the case, as it were. Here are the participants and their stories. There's no overarching, you know, narration or anything to make you, you know, push you in any particular direction. It's just, here are the people, here are their stories, and enjoy. And we do, clearly.
Yes, it's a very well-made documentary, and my hat's off to these guys because I know that they kind of had to pull together using their own money and crowdsourcing, and they did. I mean, it's very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check this out. It's going to be on iTunes, released on October 11th. They said there are other platforms out there, but iTunes is getting the special treatment there. So with this, you get hold on to your socks, Keenan. 90-plus hours of interviews that didn't make it onto the DVD/Blu-ray special features. So you have got a wealth of knowledge. So whatever they're charging for that, you're certainly going to get your darn money's worth. I'll tell you that much right now.
90 hours means that is unedited.
That's pretty much going to be, yeah. This is called, hey, do you want to see what we did? Make your own documentary with this. So you can find all that kind of stuff out by visiting doomedthemovie.com, facebook.com/doomedff. And of course the links for that will all be in the show notes and everything. So that's,
before we get to the end here, Adam, I believe it's someone's birthday as we record this evening.
Yeah, there's a birthday boy in the crowd. He's celebrating what I'm sure is his 31st birthday.
That's right. He's always 31, perpetually 31.
And so long-time listener of this show, Marty.
I believe he might be our first fan.
He did say he was our first super fan. So I'm like, he dubbed himself that. And so that's when you know that they're a real super fan, when they're psychotic enough to just go, I'm going to follow you on everything. You're just like, oh, crud. It's just like, oh, we've got I'm just glad that there's a lot of ocean separating us, because he would be down at the house every week, I think. What are you doing over here? Hello. What's it? I'm sure that's exactly what it sounds like, too. So Marty.
Nailed it.
You know, sometimes you're just on point and you can't help it. So Marty Merrick, happy birthday to you, my friend. I see your stuff there on the Facebook and whatnot. It looks like he enjoyed himself. His son enjoyed himself for his birthday. Guess what his son did for his flipping birthday the other week?
What?
He rode a Lambo around a track and everything. The kid's like, 12 or something.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how amazing of a gift is that, man? I'm looking at him just like,
good.
Holy smokes. This guy's over here driving Gardos around tracks and stuff, and I'm over here. I was lucky to just be like, hey, you get a VHS of Silverhawks for your birthday. Enjoy.
Silverhawks, what a nice pull.
Loves me some Silverhawks, boy. So that's it, everybody. Next week, Keenan and I are still doing the double duty on the show and everything, and we're going to be reviewing James Gunn's Super. James Gunn, of course, the man behind Guardians of the Galaxy, the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Did a superhero movie even before those, and it's going to be, and that's what's going to be our show next week, man.
It's what got him Guardians of the Galaxy, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's one of those, and of course, long writing career and everything, with everything from the Scooby-Doo movies to the Dawn of the Dead remake, which is my favorite Zack Snyder film, by the way.
Yeah, it's my favorite also.
But so we'll be talking about Super next week, and anytime you can have an excuse to watch a movie with Liv Tyler in it, just take it. Just take it, because, why not? So that is it, everybody, for the absent Bruce Leslie. Why don't you head on down to Heroes and Villains? The man's out there. He's still working. He's doing all of his, he's getting all of his certs and all that crap, or whatever the heck it is that he's doing, and he's still putting out shows,
Insane.
So the man's working hard for his money, so you better treat him right.
So hard, honey.
And so, just go over there, Heroes and Villains and all that kind of good stuff. And Sean, where can we find more of your work, sir?
Go ahead and look for me on the Twitter at Hero Movie Sean.
And, of course, my other podcast, The Film Find at thefilmfind.com. New releases every single week, all that kind of good stuff. We got some interesting ones coming up this week and stuff, so I'm excited to talk about those. So that's it, everybody. Join us next week when we talk about Super from James Gunn. For Sean Keenan, the absent Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.